Hello and welcome to Master Marketeers from Banking Frontiers Live. We are holding a series of some wonderful conversations with the leading marketeers in the financial services sector. And joining me today is a very interesting marketeer who is the Chief Marketing Officer of HDFC Life. Please join me in inviting Mr. Pankaj Gupta, the Chief Marketing Officer of HDFC Life. Pankaj, welcome to Banking Frontiers.
Thank you, Babu. It's my pleasure.
What role has marketing got to play when we try to create a little bit of interesting conditioning exercise of the customer?
Marketing has a role in several dimensions here. One of the simplest roles is to just give the information. So we have a customer relationship management team, and the customer relationship management team engages with the customers in various ways. And one of the ways is what are the new ways in which they can interact with us whenever they need to interact with us. So simple information is an important part. Another second part is how you can humanize that experience. For example, I don't think any of us by default prefers to talk to a robot. We may not want to talk to a robot, but how you can humanize that by naming it in a different way, by branding your robot in a different way, by creating engagement protocols that humanize that experience.
That's a wonderful way of humanizing your technology and at the same time bringing in relatedness to make your customer feel more comfortable. As a marketeer, you must be playing around with several technologies which are working for you and your team members and your counterparts. What are those promising technologies which you see now, which is coming in the future, which will be of a great boon to the marketeers? Or what are the technologies that marketeers like you are eyeing for in the near future?
Many of the technologies that are emerging now are on the digital side. And it is much more easier to segment your customers based upon your objectives, marketing and brand and product objectives now than it was earlier. So for example, if I want to have a campaign targeted at people in a certain geography, in a certain age band, who might be of a certain type of an income level, I have the ability through various partnerships, whether they could be OTT partnerships, whether they are telecom partnerships, whether they are other digital partnerships, to segment and target my customers very, very accurately. I would say this is the biggest opportunity for all of us as marketeers as we go about spending our relatively limited media budgets in a highly fragmented world. We all know that media world has totally fragmented. In a totally fragmented world, unless you are very careful with your marketing budgets, you will waste a lot of the money without achieving your marketing objectives. So my personal belief is all of us as marketeers should define our organizational brand, product, segment objectives, look at opportunities in our entire ecosystem where we can find those customers, and through the tools that are available for such segmentation, we should reach out to them in a very, very targeted manner. So that is one part of segmenting and targeting. The second is because this personalization is possible in marketing, how you can define your offers and communication in a much more engaging manner. So for example, for one customer, if I know that he has a small child at his home, for example, because of his e-commerce behavior or in some other way, how I can align my communication accordingly. So segmentation and communicating in a very, very targeted and focused manner, I would say, are two large opportunities that have come about because of the expansion in the type of data that is available about various customers and their interactions.
So, Pankaj, you have already mentioned to me what is the kind of new customer expectation and experience. Needless to say, as a marketeer, you are also supposed to change your marketing strategies and tools accordingly. So, what are the new kind of marketing strategies that are coming up to engage with this new kind of expectations and experiences required by these customers? If you can highlight a little bit on that.
From a privacy perspective, as you know, that the guidelines are right now modeled on what has been done in California and in Europe. However, these are draft guidelines and they are still to be fully implemented. So today, as we speak, uh, and we go about our marketing plans for the future from a privacy perspective, we have to think very carefully about the balance between privacy and convenience and what the customer is willing to do with us. Now, the most important part in all of this is that of customer consent. If the customer consents to share certain data with you for a certain purpose, you have to first of all be very sure that you have taken that consent, and secondly you have to be very sure that you are using that consent only for the purpose for which it was given. So when the final norms come, I am my belief is that we will have to change some of the ways in which we engage with the customers, some of the ways of storing that information about the customer engagement, for what period do we store that information. So many of these protocols will evolve. As of now, if I'm a marketeer, I have to observe these evolving trends very, very carefully. And wherever possible, I have to inbuilt these models in the way I gather customer information, so that in the future, if there are changes, I'm able to implement those changes in a relatively quick manner. As a principle, the principle of consent and principle of proportionately, I would say we can start implementing immediately. So take consent from the customer for whatever you are doing with the data, and secondly, use the data for the purpose for which the customer has given it to you.
And in a digital world, how do you calculate the ROI better as a marketeer?
ROI is always a very, very interesting question for marketeers. And I would want to give a quotation from Albert Einstein for this first. So it is said that Albert Einstein once said, everything that can be counted is not worth counting, and everything that is worth counting, you may not be able to count. So having said that, I do realize that this answer is not something that will satisfy my CFO. So from my CFO perspective, when I look at marketing ROI, I have two, three key ways of communicating how I am doing. One is to have the basic connect between how my marketing money is being spent and what it is achieving. For example, if I spend X amount of money as my marketing budget, did I see any lift in my awareness scores, in consideration scores? And there are two ways of measuring it objectively. One is to have your own time series data. So if last year I spent 10 crores and I got a lift of 5 percentage points, this year, if I'm spending the same amount of money, what is the lift I'm getting? So while it is not an absolute measure of ROI, it is a measure of the effectiveness of the campaign that I did this year versus last year. Another very, very important data from an ROI perspective for me is how I compare against my competition. So I have defined competition by name, 4 or 5 names, which I keep tracking very, very carefully from my market sources, from my media partners. I know how much they have spent in their marketing budgets and what is the lift that they have got. So if they spend X amount of money and they get some lift, if my team is spending the same amount of money or higher or lesser, what is the proportionate lift that we are getting in our awareness and consideration and other scores? So that is the second part. When we are in the digital world, I would say the definitions are even more objective. So if I spend any amount of money in a digital campaign, I have my brand objectives and marketing objectives defined upfront. So how many views do I expect? How many shares do I expect? How many engagements do I expect overall? And based upon my spend and my marketing objectives, am I able to get the result that I set out to achieve or not? Typically, if you have done a good campaign, if you have got your messaging right, if you have got your execution right, you should be able to achieve your marketing objectives in a very, very defined manner. Another thing I would say from an ROI perspective is that when you look at a brand spending money to achieve any marketing objective, it has to be looked at over a relatively longer period of time. And there is an element of trust that you need to have, that your marketing dollars are actually helping you get your business objectives. And that is again a constant challenge for the marketing fraternity, to have that buy-in from the organization that the money that is being spent in the right way. I'm very, very happy to say here is that in my organization, I have seen a lot of organic demand coming to me from the business units as well as from my other channels, where people come to the marketing team and ask for marketing support. And to me, it is again a very informal way of assessing whether I'm succeeding in my marketing efforts or not. Whether it is countable as ROI or not, I do not know, but definitely it is a business impact that I'm able to achieve.
Everyone works on a dream. Like Dr. Abdul Kalam said, dream, 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 and then work on the dream to make yourself successful. So, as a seasoned marketeer, what is your dream? Where do you wish to go in your dreamland?
So for my brand, the way I see it, I see myself as the steward of an iconic brand in India. So
Mhm.
HDFC Life and Sarutha Ke Jio and the campaigns that have been done in the past by my predecessors, they are some of the most iconic campaigns in the industry, and they are one of the some of the most well recognized taglines as well. So my task, first of all, as a marketeer, is to make sure that I am true to that great legacy of a great brand. I have I never want to lose sight of the stewardship that has been entrusted to me for such a great brand in such a critical industry. The second part is obviously the business objective that I want to achieve on an year-on-year basis or a quarter-on-quarter basis. And those objectives essentially lie around my brand consideration and brand awareness. So typically, we are among the top two in both of these in India, private life insurance industry. And my dream would be that we are the clear leaders, not just in private life insurance industry, but in the entire industry on both of these parameters for the entire country. Another thing that you would see is that these scores vary by geography, by segment, SEC, etc. So how I can be the undisputed leader on both of these parameters across the country and across segments. So that is a dream. It is a dream that we have to aspire for. Probably it is a much longer term dream, but it is a dream nevertheless.
It is also a constant work or effort to make sure that you reach there. Great. Going forward, as a senior marketeer and a leader in the industry, what is your suggestion for the upcoming marketeers or other fellow marketeers in the industry? What is the one piece of learning that you would like to share with them?
Based upon whatever I have learned in the last 24, 25 years of working with customers, I would say that things will keep changing, and things have changed multiple times. The latest pandemic is just one such example, a very large such example. But still, the world in which we are living will keep changing. And in this changing world, sometimes it is easy to get lost in certain fads and certain novel things. So, my first message to everybody in the marketing community is to never lose sight of the true basics. And there are two or three true basics that we can always remember. One of the true basic is that customer is supreme. Whatever the customer wants, whatever the customer needs, how well you are aligned as an organization, as a product, as a business, and as a brand, all of those is extremely critical. So always go to your customer. Based upon whatever your organization has decided its business, there is a customer that is out there. You have to define that customer well, and you have to understand that customer well, and you have to align and work toward that customer. That is the most important message I can give for anybody, that the basic is not changing, it is still the same. The second part, again from a marketing perspective, is as we discussed in the ROI question, it is a world which is slightly less objective than, for example, a sales world where you can count the number of sales made, etc. So it is a world which needs a lot of internal collaboration and buy-in within the organization. So whatever are your marketing objectives or brand objectives, always very, very important to align with the organizational objectives so that everybody understands that those marketing objectives translate to business objectives in XYZ manner. If as a marketeer we are able to align the marketing and the business objectives in a very clear manner for the entire management team, our ability to get more and more support for the newer initiative that we might want to do is going to be higher. So those two things: one, focus on the customer, and second, how well can you align your marketing and business objectives. These two, if you are able to follow as a marketeer, will always help you out in being a more effective marketing professional.
Thank you very much, Pankaj. Your interview was very insightful. We covered a lot of multifaceted activities, and it has really enlightened me personally. And I'm sure the viewers who would be viewing it would be also very, very inspired by this kind of conversation we have. Thank you very much, and we look forward to having more such wonderful conversations with you in the future.
Thank you for having me, Mr. Babu.
Thank you very much.